here from the BI Edge. So what I'm covering today is the producing petroleum leases across Australia. Now, I've collected data from WA, from the Northern Territory, South Australia, and Queensland. These are the four main petroleum producing states in Australia: New South Wales, Vic, Tassie, ACT. Obviously, they don't have as much petroleum or oil and gas in those particular states, so I'll let them out here in this analysis today. Hope you enjoy where they are operating and what the future holds. As you can see, a dashboard immediately gives us the big picture. There are a total of 468 active producing petroleum leases in Australia as of 2025. That's a significant number, and it represents a complex web of operations through across this industry. But if we ask ourselves, who are the key players? Let's zoom in on the total number of production leases by operator chart. So if we look at this here, we can straight away we can see that Santos Limited has an impressive 130 leases here. This immediately tells us that Santos is a dominant force in the Australian petroleum market. Following Santos, we see other major players such as Australia Pacific LNG Proprietary Limited with 38 leases here, and Santos Quadrant Proprietary Limited with 27 here. And this is clear, makes it clear that Santos Limited, in its various forms, holds a substantial portion of the country's petroleum production rights, whether this is sole ownership or joint venture. Now let's look at the future, specifically the near future. This is where the story gets really interesting. On the right-hand side here, we have a prominent tile showing that 90 leases are set to expire before 2030 here. Okay. Now, it's a significant number representing almost 20% of all current leases. This isn't just a number, it's a window into the decisions and opportunities that lie ahead. Now, let's break down these expiring leases in the leases expiring before 2030 bar chart. The chart shows which operators have the most leases on the line. Once again, Santos Limited at the forefront with 29 leases expiring soon. This means that Santos will be facing a critical period of renewal applications and strategic planning. Future of a significant portion of their operations is now on the table. Other operators, such as Santos Quadrant, with 7 expiring leases, and Bridgeport Cooper Basin Proprietary Limited with 5 down here. Bridgeport Cooper Basin 5 will also need to be thinking about their next steps throughout this period here. You know, how many leases are they going to renew? How many lease applications have they currently got in the pipeline? To put a face to these numbers, let's look at the lease titles table below. This table gives us specific examples of these leases. We can see that WA 14 down here, operated by Vermilion Oil and Gas Australia Proprietary Limited, was granted in '96 and it expired in 2017. This example highlights the cyclical nature of these leases and the long-term commitments involved. We also see leases such as PL 1048 and PL 1049. Okay, so these ones here, both operated by Westside Mungie Proprietary Limited, which were granted in 2020 and have a long lifespan extending to 2050. This demonstrates a mix of both mature and relatively new projects in the market. So the takeaway from this dashboard, it tells us a story of a robust, active petroleum sector dominated by a few key players such as Santos, but it also reveals an approaching inflection point. The large number of leases expiring before 2030 signal a period of change, a time when operators, regulators, and the public will be watching closely to see what happens next. This dashboard isn't just a collection of numbers, it's a roadmap of Australia's energy future. So if I just want to close off here with a few points, if we get in here, we can have a bit of a look now at Santos Limited. What are those leases? Okay, so you have a look in here. These are all their current producing leases. When does it look like? What does it look like for expiry? Now, we don't have the granted expiry year for all of them, but we can sort of see here that by 2030, there's going to be quite a lot of them gone. Okay. And it's important to sort of have these numbers to see businesses that, if you're working in this particular sector providing services to the mining industry, um, you know, what leases are expiring on what year, and who is currently producing within the market. Um, but this basically uncovers Santos, and what it's sort of done over the years, and how it's still a very strong market player. Now, economically, you can sort of have a look at the international company looking at buying out Santos and what effect this may have to Australian energy security, all that sort of thing. So it's good to sort of have a bit of a look and see, based on that, who is taking out the most leases and who's dominating the leases. Now, we can't correlate this to production without the production based data, but I am working on some AMO based data at the moment to really look at the flow rates, because that's going to sort of tell us in what region, because that'll give us a bit of an idea as to who's producing what in what facility in what state. Okay, so this one here, this is just the current producing petroleum lease titles by lease granted year. Okay, so we can see how many leases we're producing in any given period of time between 1963 all the way here to 2024. So if I want to break this down and have a bit of a look, I can go here and go 99. Okay, well, in 1999, there were 29 lease titles that were active producing petroleum. That was a big peak. And then over here again, there's 30 here in 2019. Now, then COVID hit, it was low, low, then we really tanked down here for going back up again. Okay. And you can see over here, very sort of cyclical over time. The total leases was highest in 2019, followed by 99 and 2011. 2019 accounted for 7.83% of total lease titles. Okay, so if you look at that, nearly 8% of all leases between 1963 and 2024 were biggest here in 2019 before COVID. Across all 52 granted years, total lease titles ranged from 1 to 30. Okay, so it's a pretty big range there. Obviously, in the 60s, there wasn't a lot of leases there. I would say the lease size was bigger and they were producing more in that period. Less players in the market, all that sort of thing. But this sort of just gives you a bit of a rough idea as to who's currently playing in the market. And if I look here, I can sort of go, okay, well, if I want to look at the total lease titles that were granted in 2024, I can have a bit of a look down here and go, okay, who's entering the market right now? We've got Petrex, Santos Limited. Okay, so you can sort of see that TriStar have got one, Cenex have got one, and Bridgeport. You can sort of see who's entering the market or re-entering the market there. Who entered in 2019? You can see Arrow CSG, or Santos again, and so forth. Okay, if we look at this down period down here, Cordillo, H2X, Santos, CSG. All right, so that's just a bit of an analysis there, just to cover basic leases across the Australian petroleum industry. Thanks for joining me today, guys, on this deep dive. I'll see you next time on the BI Edge. Cheers.